Welcome to the Scully Sez podcast, talking all things law, business, and more. Now here's your host, Tom Scully.
Ready, and this is Tom Scully, and the name of this podcast is Scully Sez, and we need as many people as we can get to give us a thumbs up or to follow us or to do something or other, except no thumbs down. We don't allow that. It's so spread the word. It'd be like a virus. You spread the word out there, and by God, it'll catch on and infect the entire community. Having said that, you're going to talk to us a little bit about, I think you're going to talk to us about Europe, and you're going to talk to us about automobiles and cars and things like that. Is that what I'm to understand?
That is. So I briefly had just a couple of things to talk about Europe, because that's where I just went on my honeymoon, and where actually me and you are going again.
I'm not going on honeymoon with you, sir. I refuse to do that.
No, but after that, and so we're going to Sweden, which is a part of the world that I've never been to. So I'm excited to see that. But I've been to where I went on my honeymoon many times. I went to Italy, and I also did the south of France and Monaco, which is obviously just wedged between those two places. But I checked it out. So I had a couple things that I was worried about ahead of time, and I was pleasantly surprised. And one thing that I was like, oh, okay, well, that's not great. But so I previously have been to Rome, and I've been to Paris, and I've been to Florence, and all of those cities were demographically very interesting. They did not seem super representative of the country they were in necessarily. And not that I'm not going to really suppose if that's a good or a bad thing, but it was a thing, it was reality. It was not it was not a lot of Italians in a lot of places. But when I was in Nice, there was a lot of French people, all French people almost, right?
Well,
and so go ahead.
France. I say that was in France, so maybe a couple French people might be hanging around the place. Yeah, I would think so. But go ahead.
But so when you're in Paris, it's not quite that way. Like, obviously everyone there is French, the same way that everyone who's an American becomes an American, but like it was a lot less of the like super culturally French people, ethnically French, I guess, if you will, right? Which again, fine. I have no, I'm not drawing any conclusions about that. But what I am saying is it felt like a concerted effort in Nice to not have it be that way, because that's like what a lot of the media is like, oh, look at, immigration, look at how women in these countries are having to adjust to this. And look at, there's a lot of those articles that you'd read from a day-to-day basis. And I'm not saying it's not true, but I was kind of amazed how police presence was on another level. It was very, very, very clearly, trying to keep homeless and, other populations that would be like bad for tourism, to keep them out. But so the thing that I thought was strange about it was when I was in Rome, it was during the more American time to visit last year. And that was not the case. They didn't care. There was people, like a bunch of the people with the carts on the side of the road, or doing the ball scam or whatever it was, every single person was doing something like that, trying to sell you a bracelet, sell you a flower, whatever. In Nice, it was not that way. Now, I've not been to both multiple times to find out if that's the way that it is. One's just like a fancier, more hoity-toity, resorty area, so they deal with it that way, or if it was because it was during European vacation that we traveled. I found that interesting. So anyways, I have no conclusions, nothing really to offer you based on that. I just thought it was interesting. I was very much surprised. I was expecting every single, 5 feet, it was going to be some guy like trying to give me a bracelet, trying to get me a flower, trying to give me, that's how it was in Rome. And it was not that way at all. So I thought that was interesting. And I'm interested to learn more about that as time goes on. It was a thing I was very worried about. But so that kind of brings me to my next thing.
I hadn't finished.
Oh, sorry.
The first thing. Yeah. Thank you, sir. But anyway, here's what, as far as Paris is concerned, I would think that Paris has more manufacturing, more companies, and that would attract more people. I think we're talking about the adjoining countries like Turkey and the Arabic countries. And so I think that the employment possibilities in Paris would be a great deal more prevalent than they would be in Nice. And so as a result, I would think that the larger city, the more metropolitan city, would attract more immigration. And then again, I think when you get into Italy, I think you're further away, and so I don't think they're as affected as France is. France has had some problems in the past with some of with some of the immigrating population coming blending into the society, and so they've had to pass some laws to that effect. So I don't think that Italy's been affected that same way. But of course, I could be wrong. But
Well,
yeah.
what I guess what surprised me is obviously what you said is totally true. Like the industries are in Paris, so of course you're going to have a lot more people looking for people that are looking for jobs and just being whatever their father has a job there, whatever. There's going to be a lot more families and people who are providing for themselves in Paris. But I guess what surprised me was Nice being on the water, a really really solid industry to be an immigrant in, and a lot of these places is fishing or working at a dock or working with the charters or whatever, what I mean, like the water, the stuff on the water is pretty solid go of it, you know what I mean, especially if you're like a deckhand where it's you being able to speak the language or anything like that. You only need to speak it in a cursory way, you don't need to be like a customer service level person. Like I understand why waiters weren't a bunch of immigrated people and stuff like that. That makes sense. But I was just so surprised because I thought it was going to be way worse because I know that Paris is, I know they're far away, but it was still a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah. So yeah, we when we were in Paris, we were over at the left bank, which was there was a lot of immigration there, but we enjoyed ourselves and we liked Paris. But so that was your first point, sir, and before I so rudely interrupted you on your
No, no,
second point. All right, well, it's
you're good.
I just interrupted you, then unrudely interrupted you. But so now you're on your second point, and that is what?
So my second point is like when I was over there, I rented a Cinquecento, which for an American would be a Fiat 500, but it's literally called it.
What's your language, sir?
But it's the Fiat 500, right? The little tiny car.
Oh yeah.
And we tried to get one last time we were over there because Emma's like obsessed with them. She likes the aesthetic of them. And we didn't get it. We got like a Citroen the first time. So this time we got one. Let me tell you, that thing is, I mean, you had old Volkswagen Bugs, so you probably will be able to relate, but it is the most gutless vehicle I've ever driven in my entire life. I would be in fifth gear, and it had 6 gears. I'd be in fifth gear or sixth gear going up a slight grade, and it would be losing speed on the speedometer, foot flat to the floor. So it was not the most enriching driving experience. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about is, so that car, they made it till like 2024. They're pretty cheap, but they're like, it's nice. It has CarPlay. It has like heated seats. It has, whatever. It's a fine car. It's like a $13,000 car or something like that. And those and the Fiat Panda, that's the most common car you see over there. Okay. And they're like all pretty much sub 20. If you're really, really getting a crazy one, you're going to be at 20, whatever. But like for the most part, almost all Europeans drive cars in a bracket of like 15 grand to like 45 grand as like a everyday vehicle. Even wealthy people, even in Monaco, was all Fiat Pandas and 500s and Citroens, this, that, whatever. You get, Renaults, you get it. I'm shopping for a car in America. I've already bought one. I have a Tesla and it's good. It was a good deal. It's a cool car. But shopping for any sort of gas powered car right now is so out of whack. And I don't know. I know you guys got new cars recently, so I don't know how much you were like affected by all this stuff, but like sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, we are out of whack. There's no doubt about that. In fact, well, then again, some people call us wacky, but anyway, we do have gas-powered cars, and we're quite happy with those cars. But before I let you go on to something besides that, how about smart cars? Did you see any smart cars over there?
Yeah, we did actually. There wasn't as many as you'd think of the Fortwo is what the the little guy is called. It's called the Smart 4 too. They had like a 4-seater SUV type situation going on.
Yeah.
Bunch of those, like so many of them, like so many, because Smart is Mercedes sub brand.
Okay.
So that's, they're I guess, manufacturing's right there, whatever. But there was Smarts, Minis, and Fiats just everywhere. Every single one was like, every single street was full of them. And then it was surprising. Didn't see as many Renaults as you'd think. Didn't see as many Citroens as you'd think. Because that, France used to have a lot of pride on those brands, being like, oh, we have French cars, whatever, and it's like now with badge engineering, they're it seems like they're moving on to greener pastures. Again, Minis, Smarts, Fiats, all that is like what's super, super common. But so what I'm saying is I like the car I'm looking at is like a Subaru BRZ or a Toyota GR86. They're the same thing. It's the same car. Made by both manufacturers. The car now, obviously the tariff situation is going on, so it's raised a little bit. It was like 35 for a premium one. Now it's 38. Whatever. That's again, that's politics. I can't really say anything about that. But what my problem is that this car, that if I were to buy it in Europe, it's a 22 to like 28,000 euro car.
Yes.
And it's made in Japan. It's not made there.
Yes.
Is a damn near $40,000 car here in America. And that seems to be like like looking for a single cab work truck F-150, which I would want an all-wheel drive one, right? Because I live in a place where it snows. So in order to even just once I've added those things to it, it's a $35,000 truck itself. And it seems like the American car industry is hitting a number, not like making needs. Like, people are excited about that Slate truck that's going to be 20 grand. Well, it's 20 grand without a radio. So great. That's awesome. But 20 grand is not small potatoes anyways for a car. Like that's not a cheap car. Like it is, but it shouldn't be that cheap of a car, And so I think what my greater point here is, I don't understand when I come back from Europe and I get here and I'm looking at all the cars on the road. It's like I'm driving, if you're driving in an average highway pack, you're driving with like almost $2 million worth of cars if you go by MSRP, because of how expensive stuff is cars are over here. And I don't know how anyone is affording it. Like, a Camry is a $45,000 car if God forbid you want options, I don't understand what is possibly going on and where the win for the average person is, because I'm not the average person. I have more breathing room than most people, and I'm looking at these things and it's like, okay, I have a Tesla and I'm talking about getting an entry-level sports car. That should not be almost nearing $100,000 garage, those two cars together. That shouldn't be at all. It never has been in any other time, and it isn't in other places. So I guess I ask you, has it ever been like this? Has it always been like this? And I'm just not realizing it.
Well, as you know, I'm not really a car person, never have been a car person. And I also take offense at you maligning my bug. My bug worked heroically for many years. I bought it in 1968 and it lasted about 12 or 14 years. And I drove that poor thing to death. And so I thought it was a great car, and I had no problem with with its ability to get up and down hills. The only problem I had with it is it used to have a heating system where the engine would heat it, and what would happen is they'd have these they had underneath the vehicle, they would have these I don't know what you'd call them, conduits or whatever, but the conduits, they rusted out, don't you see? So after I guess about 10 years of driving that Volkswagen, instead of getting the hot air from the engine, I got the cold air from the street, and it became quite uncomfortable. So I had to give it up. But it was a very good car. It was a great car. And then you mentioned about Europe. I was over in Europe, and I never saw an American car.
Yep.
Never saw an American car. And I've been over to Asia. Never saw an American car, unless you would buy the American Embassy or something like that. But other than that, so so I believe, and you're hearing this thing with Trump right now. talking about the tariffs and so on, I believe that we have been unfairly taxed in Europe and in Asia for so many years that basically we simply got used to it. It's like getting beat up. If you
Right.
get beat up often enough and long enough, you just get used to the beatings. And I think that's what's happened with the United States. And so now that we're taking some type of action to even out the playing field a little bit, a lot of these other folks have become quite incensed because they're saying things. Oh, you're getting tired of taking the beatings. How dare you? You should continue doing so so that we can continue taking advantage of you and making money because you've got so much money of your own that you can afford to share it with us. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, it is true too, because I have two things actually to say about what you said. So firstly, we were 100% getting a raw deal from European and Japanese cars. Again, the $35,000 entry level, like 200 horsepower, tiny sports car should not be $35,000. Period. Doesn't matter. Period. It just it's an insane ask. You're nearing. When I was in high school, that's what a 3 Series with no options was where you could start to look at it. Maybe certified pre-owned, whatever. But 40 grand is 3 Series money usually. Okay, so I shouldn't be paying that for a little tiny sports car. That's just insane, and no one else in the world has paid that. BMW is where it gets even crazier or Mercedes even. An E-Class Mercedes is a taxi cab over there. An E-Class Mercedes is like a 38,000 euro car. Like maybe that might be a little low, maybe like 40 something thousand, but whatever, like an attainable car for a rideshare driver to use. Right. And over here, it's a $90,000 car. That's not import. That's luxury tax. You know what I mean? Like that's like a punishment, Yeah. That is an issue. That's why even though I'm being affected by the tariffs, as far as like what I'm having, my buying power is reduced a little bit. I would rather, be tabling these, or not tabling, but I'd rather be having these discussions at the table. I don't think that, even though it's a little bit worse for me, I don't think that we should not be trying to fix that. That's a problem. The other thing was, I did see a little bit of American cars in Monaco only, in the stretch between Monaco and Ventimiglia. I saw like 5 Mustangs, and then we saw a Dodge Ram, and then we saw a Jeep Grand Cherokee, which we've been seeing more of those over there because Fiat owns that company. So technically it's not an American car really, right? So it's like that. Just Fiat was like, what's the biggest offering we have? Oh shoot, we can just bring the Jeeps over here. And that's what they did. So we also saw Wranglers. That was another weird one. So it seems like because every brand is becoming a global brand, like Stellantis or GM has a bunch of, overseas divisions. Ford has a whole separate company in Europe. Like, as these cars become more global, now you're starting to see them drive American cars. But I mean, like, the ratio is still nothing compared to the ratio of BMWs, Mercedes, whatever in America, right? Like it's still not even close. So ideally that flattens back out and it's not quite as big of an inequity as it is. But I just wanted to address that. I felt like it was important to, it is getting a little out of hand right now. And it's a real way you can see the tariffs hopefully eventually start to make it better for us as the buyer,
Okay, so we got that out of the way. I had a third thing I was going to bring up. It's one of my favorite people is this guy by the name of Colbert. You ever hear of Colbert?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize this before, but Colbert. I was doing a little bit of research on Russiagate, and as I was doing some research, I came across this character again. And of course, Colbert had been over to Russia a number of years ago, and but anyway, he came up, and so I was looking at him. He had Trump on one time. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And it was very contentious. He was kind of a nasty character with Trump, to tell you the truth. And you got to be pretty nasty to get nasty with Trump,
right?
But he got nasty enough that Trump never went back on the show again. And he was he doesn't like anybody that has conservative values. Doesn't like those people. And so I was looking at that, and so he had another interview some time back, and I don't know if you were ever aware of it. Was with Mark Wahlberg? Did you ever see
Okay.
that? Well, he Wahlberg actually got up and walked off the stage. He would have given Colbert a good beating had it been anywhere else, but of course he was on television.
Right.
And not that Colbert didn't deserve a good beating, but I think with his limp-wristed retort, he probably would have got the worst of it. But anyway, what he did with he kind of sucker punched Wahlberg. He invited Wahlberg onto his show on the pretext that he was going to promote Wahlberg's new movie. But when Wahlberg got on the show, he asked Wahlberg about his prior life as a young hoodlum in
Yep.
Boston. And Wahlberg said, "Yeah," he said, "all of that's true." He said, "I've asked to be forgiven for that, and I'm very sorry for what I've done. And I try to go to church. I try to be a good person. I try to pay into charities and that type of thing." But Colbert wouldn't let it go. He said, "Yeah, well, do you think that just because you go to church all the time, and just because you're a good family man, and just because you pay into charity and that type of thing, do you think that that's good enough? Do you think that maybe you haven't made proper amends?" And Wahlberg said to Colbert, he said, "Well, you're kind of a soft pansy type of character. You've never really had," which is true. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so but he persisted. Colbert persisted, knowing that he wasn't going to get slapped around. And finally, Wahlberg just had enough of the guy. He pretty much called him a pansy and so on, and he walked off the show. But then, so he maligns Trump. He bashes Wahlberg, and then the next thing I see, he's got Schiff on his show. I think that's pronounced Shit. It's Adam, but that fellow, he was on the show. And then he had Hillary on the show a number of times. Hillary's been on the show 7 times.
I was gonna say she's got a lot of episodes.
Yes, and then, but so he was very, very judgmental of this fellow by the name of Wahlberg. Goes to church all the time and contributes a lot. But then, of course, he had Slick Willie. Slick Willie's been on the show a number of times, and he had no trouble with Slick Willie. And this Monica thing and everything, that's all forgotten, and it's fine. And he, and he was pandering up to Slick Willie, something terrible, as he was with his wife, and then to add insult to injury, he had Kamala on, and Kamala, I think, has been on 5 or 6 times at least. And he was the questions he was asking these people were, I mean, they were absolutely softball questions. I mean, they couldn't have been fluffier. And he answered most of the questions, particularly for Kamala, answered most of the questions for her. He asked the question and answered the question and asked her what she thought about it. And of course, she agreed with what Stephen said. So, but that was, so I've gotten to the point that I never liked the guy because I always thought that he was kind of a pompous ass that looked down his nose at everybody. And so when they gave him the boot, I thought that was a wonderful thing, and I agree with Trump. I agree with Trump on that one. Give him a boot and a wonderful thing, and but going back to these conservative folks, I was looking at this podcast the other day, and who should pop up but Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly is saying, well, she was pretty much agreeing with my train of thought, saying, it's a good thing that this guy got the boot. But in addition, she mentioned the fact that not only was he kind of crying and acted like a smack behind, but the fact of the matter was, what she said, when you fire somebody, the name of the game is, when you fire somebody, you fire them immediately. You get hold of them. You see, you have the 2 security guards, get one on each arm, and you escort them ever so gingerly out to the parking lot into the car. And if they need to take anything from the desk, you put that into a cardboard box, and you put that in the back seat of the car, and you wave goodbye to them. That's how you do it.
Right.
But this guy's got another 10 months coming, and so giving him another 10 months. What he's going to do is he's going to be bashing these people for the next 10 months. I don't get that. It just in my mind, it just seems kind of crazy, but
it makes very little sense to do that, especially when you have someone who's like, so, he's a pretty, well, obviously not, but he seemed pretty important to his network. He seemed like, oh, this is one of the important shows, blah, 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 whatever. But what I was thinking when you were saying it is, he kind of displays himself like he's like David Letterman, or even you could go a step further, like an Anderson Cooper type, like as if he's like this guy who you should listen to his show because he has good takes and all that. And he's way more Jimmy Fallon,
Yes.
He's way more Jimmy Fallon. Like Jimmy Fallon, no disrespect, I mean, he's made himself a pretty cool career from SNL and all that other stuff, but like he is like a jester, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing about Jimmy Fallon that you're like, oh, the substance here is, oh wow, you know what I mean? Like you're not sitting back and really gleaning a bunch from them lip syncing something in a country style, you know what I mean? Like it's goofy, it's supposed to be fun, which is fine, that's great, whatever. But in the ever-changing landscape, when you're watching a guy like Theo Von, who is a like total comedian, and then you watch his podcast, and his podcast is about like men's mental health and like how he deals with what he's going through and in his journey to fame, his pre-fame, how he heals his his childhood, stuff like that, whatever. And say about that what you will. When you're looking at comedians who are having successful podcasts, having subject matter that's actually serious, and they use the comedy as a tool to get from serious topic to serious topic, and you're a guy who thinks that you're that, and you're not, you're just comedy to comedy, you come off arrogant. You are going to come off arrogant. You're going to come off like an a-hole, and he does. Like he does. Like, again, I always, any of these people are people that I'd have a beer with. I'd have a beer with Kamala. I'd have a beer with AOC. I'd have a beer with Trump. You know what I mean? All these people are fine. I'm not trying to, admonish them as, whatever, humans, but I mean, they're like, you're not the most interesting people, right? Like you're not. Like the interesting part about their show is the person who comes on and you get insight into them. But like a really good interview show is like Rogan, because you're watching for Rogan. That's why he's the best. Every single week, it doesn't matter who's on. You're watching because the host is so interesting and what he extracts from people is so valuable. You know what I mean?
Well,
Colbert's not that at all.
No. Well, Rogan, I heard him the other day, and this is what distinguishes from Colbert. Colbert has a lot of people on his show that he agrees with. Rogan says he likes to have people on his show that he disagrees with, and the reason he finds it interesting to find out where they're coming from, where their head is at, and that's exactly where Colbert, it's the same thing over and over and over every week. And, he said something the other day, to show some of his arrogance. He said, they said that this station is losing something like $40 million a year, $40 million a year.
Jeez.
He said that I can only account for $24,000, and they said, "Oh yes, that's $16,000," which of course was with Trump. You see, that's right. Trump when he's. But this doofus, he's getting paid. They think he's getting paid. I believe they said he's getting paid $20 million a year, $16 million. Yeah, they've shown that he's getting paid $16,000, but the thought is that actually it's been increased up to $20 million a year. So this guy, he's complaining about $16 million that the company is having to pay out, but he seems to have no trouble with the company losing $40 million a year, and he's got a staff of 100 people. I mean,
right.
His staff is almost as big as our staff. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know? Yeah, I mean, I just said to Tony he's going to have to take a pay cut, and I mean, the guy he was just beside himself. But tears coming down, it's horrible. But you know, that's the way it is. So it's a dog eat dog world, and that's the way you got to be about it.
No, but it is crazy, right? Because that's you know, first off, that didn't even surprise me when you said 16 million. I was like, oh, okay, you know, whatever. That's how ludicrous star salaries. And I the reason I'm saying star, not even just like star TV persona.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a star, that's what people get is 10 or more million a year. For whatever reason, that seems to be a star, NBA star, MLB star, football star, TV star, music star. They all seem to make over 10 million a year. Yeah. Is like, you know, what that threshold is where you have those, like, you know, that really glitzy and glamorous contract. Mm-hmm. So that's crazy. I mean, Stephen A. Smith, for example, who is his entire network, I'll give him that.
Yes.
But like Stephen A. Smith makes so much money. Like, it's disgusting how much money he makes. And he doesn't watch the sports that he talks about every day. You know what I mean? Like, he will legitimately not watch a game and talk to you about it for 20 minutes. And then the $45 million or whatever it is a year clears just fine. You know what I mean? So these guys don't care about that. They don't care about, they're not like a guy like a Rogan. Like Rogan, tomorrow, if everyone stopped watching Rogan's podcast, it's all done. He's got to fire everyone. It's all whatever. These guys have, you know, another talking head waiting, another talking head waiting, another talking head waiting. But what irritates me is you get a guy like Colbert who will talk about the Russiagate thing like it's this very, very real thing. And then I'm like, even on my other screen right now, I have pulled up, it's a New York Post article, so maybe biased, whatever. But I have a New York Post article about about Russiagate. Yes. And it's basically confirming from internal communications in the Clinton campaign in 2016 that it was literally concocted. Like, yes. It was a decided thing. Like, they were like, what we want to do is we want to take Trump, we want to get him closer to Putin, and we want to continuously beat that into people's heads. Obama was complicit in it. He even after the election was lost, he went on stage and he said, "Oh, you know, I'm really worried about what Russia's going to do. I'm really worried about this." So all of this, you know, like all of this stuff, I'm tired of the acting like it. Like, once we find out that something was complete bull crap, then just like brushing over it and continuing on the way that you are. Like that should have been us. Like, every liberal person or Democratic person, it's totally fine. I understand the media gets me on stuff all the time, everything, whatever. But once you get drummed up into a frenzy where you're like, oh my God, Trump is a Russian operative, and then you find out that it is literally a conspiracy by your side, should there not be some level of that, like, new perspective you have applied to everything down the road now, where you're like, I don't know though, how much of this could be manufactured? How much of this is, because it was sold. The idea of it was sold to people. It didn't do anything. Russia didn't win the election. People got fucking tired of people got tired of just the behavior, the behavior in the world right now. Or I mean, especially then, you know, and also, not for nothing, no one wanted Hillary Clinton as the president. That was a huge part of it too. Same thing with Kamala. You know, you put up someone who, and I'm not just saying a man, but if you put up someone who's a more traditional presidential candidate, Trump might not have been the president twice. It was a close enough race. But if you put up a bad candidate and you have a guy who's like actually, you know, speaks in ways that the average person understands them, what do you expect to happen? What do you like? What, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I don't get.
Well, Hillary was smart but evil,
right?
And Kamala is just dumb as hell. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, she couldn't string a sentence together. I mean, I don't know. I think the smartest thing she said was about the wheels on the bus go round and round. That was about that was the most clever thing she came up with. But other than
What,
that,
do you think you just fell from a coconut tree?
We can get into how she got into power coming up through the ranks, so to speak, but we'll not go there. I believe that's pretty well documented, Willie, and
I think they call it Lewinskying.
Ah, yes.
Just kidding.
It could be, yes. So, all right. So yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say, though, so another thing about that Russiagate thing, right? So
Yes.
that's a thing that now there is like transcripted reports of internal communications making that, basically seem, from everything, all the information we have now, making it seem like it was just pure collusion, pure fabrication almost, right?
Yes.
The same thing is true also, and I'm not going to get into it because I know it's super controversial, but the same thing is true, by the way, of the information that Fauci was giving the government during COVID.
Yes.
Like, they funded the lab that did the leak, and they directly said in front of Congress, no, we didn't do that. And now that's not the case. But like, how long was that guy allowed to continue to have an impact on medicine on a national level and really a global level, And like, again, I'm not saying that maybe there isn't a use case for, I'm not going to come out and say all this because there'll be no trust and then I won't be able to disseminate a plan that helps the nation. Fine, whatever. That is politics. I get it. Sometimes withholding information is necessary. Sure. But how many people lost jobs, were ridiculed, had friends and family cut them off? How many people were treated like they were these crazy tinfoil hat wearing insane people? And then like now the like most crazy of the fabrications of the COVID, the people who are like kind of anti that what was going on, is true. Right. And again, that's what I'm saying is like, if you get 2 years between you and the truth coming out, it didn't happen then. That you don't worry about the truth. It doesn't matter. There's no Democratic person that I know that's looking inwardly at themselves and inwardly at this situation being like, oh, wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like if Trump's side did that, I would be, enraged right now. And instead, it's like, well, whatever, like that's how it feels. It's just, well, whatever. And it's like, as time goes on, we're finding more and more lies and more, hypocrisy, more and more whatever. Then it's just never addressed. Just
although I thought Obama came up with the perfect line. He says, "How dare you say such a terrible thing? This is ridiculous, and I won't give this any more credence. So just forget about it and let it go at that." So that's the best way to do it. Just to dismiss it out of hand. So
right.
It's so ridiculous that I don't even want to consider it. And speaking about things that are so ridiculous and not even wanting to consider it, I think that we're probably done for the day. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, gotta be. I don't really have any specific things to talk about anymore. I've talked your ear off already. I even got some car talk in there. I mean, come on, like, what more could I want?
I was thinking that you were going to solve all these problems for me, but I think that all you've done is created more confusion in my mind, and I'm bereft. I tell you, and so. So with that, with great confusion and sadness at not being able to come to any kind of conclusion about anything whatsoever, I'm going to bid you fond adieu, sir.
And to you as well.
Bye.
Merci.